leads in the disappearance of Park Ranger Otis Bartholomew. Authorities urge caution near the Grizzly Lake area. If seen, do not approach.
Otis was always a little off, muttering to himself, carving strange symbols into trees, telling ghost stories about the bear spirit that protected the land. But he vanished months ago, probably just skipped town.
Hello everyone, this is Keith. Thanks for joining me at the Solo Gamers Club. Tonight is going to be an early bird video that I intended to release as a part of my 2025 Halloween month programming coming in October. I decided to move the video forward in the queue as I have some important news for my viewers, especially those that wanted the Grail game Camp Grizzly, but were unprepared to pay the insane secondary market prices for the game. This month, Camp Grizzly is returning to Kickstarter in a brand new second edition from Trick or Treat Studios. So if you're interested, go and check it out online. It is scheduled to close on September 11th, so you'll have to hurry. The new edition, from my understanding, keeps all of the original artwork and it adds some new features, including 3 new expansions and a double-sided board. For tonight's playthrough, I'll be using the first edition base game along with the elements of 5 expansions. One of the variants is the Spin the Bottle expansion number 1. The Kickstarter version came with a spinner that you could use to spin the bottle. It's a mechanism in the game. I've created my own because my expansion did not come with that. It was, I think, a Kickstarter exclusive. It's got all the cards that the Kickstarter had, but it never came with that spinner. So I've created one for myself. I basically have the sign Camp Grizzly, established 1962. And we're going to use this spinner if we end up having a spin the bottle mechanism show up in the game. I've downloaded a handy counselor's handbook that was created by a BGG user named Weapon Gamma. His file includes frequently asked questions, BGG rulings, and even some alternate game setups inside the file. This file helps to clear up some questions in the rules. So let's get started and we'll set up the game. For this playthrough, I'll be using the Campfire, game setup number 1, difficulty of normal. So we'll be using these setup criteria for our game. To begin the setup, we lay out our game board, and I've got our 4 stacks of our finales at the top of the board. Each of those stacks has 5 cards in them, courtesy of the expansions. We start setup by drawing counselor cards and taking their matching pawns. In this game, I'm going to be playing a 4-player game, so we're going to be drawing 4 counselor cards. So I've got our stack of counselor cards. We're going to give those a cut, and then we're going to start drawing our 4 counselors, and we'll see what we end up with for this game. First one is Jackson. Jackson is detached. During his move phase, Jackson may ditch a camper in his care. Roll a d6. On a result of 2 to 6, we shuffle the camper back into the cabin deck and draw a survival card. On a 1, camper is killed. He's also a crack shot. Jackson receives +1 to all his fight rolls when using ranged weapons. He has a panic level of 2, and his move and health will begin at 3. Our next counselor is CJ. All right, CJ is a coach. Other counselors in his cabin will receive +1 to their fight rolls. That's very powerful. He's also a sprinter. When moving, CJ may discard a survival card to move one more space. He has a panic level of 2, and his move and health will start at 3. Our third counselor is Karen. Karen is a mentor. Campers in her care may re-roll their special skills once per turn. She's also inspired. Karen will begin the game with 2 additional survival cards. She has a panic level of 2, and her move and health will start at 3. And our final counselor is going to be Saffron. She's a conscientious objector. During her move phase, Saffron may shuffle a weapon card back into the cabin deck and draw a survival card. And she has another keyword of Aquarius. At the end of her turn, Saffron may swap a survival card with another counselor in any location. Usable on permanence. She has a panic level of 2 and a move and health of 3. So we'll get out their tokens and place them at the campfire. Next, we're going to shuffle our cabin, survival, snuffed, and maniac decks. I place them on a tray for convenience. Next, we're going to consult our setup card for the campfire, and we're going to lay out all of the tokens that are listed on that card. It has a special setup requirement. It says start the body count at 1 and Otis's stalk at 2. Okay. So we're going to start the body count at 1, and that's going to give Otis a +1 to his stalk. So we've set up Otis's card, indicating that he has a current stalk of 2. That's his movement. Attack using a blue 4-sided dice, and if he's successful, he's going to inflict 1 damage point on his target. According to the setup card, Otis is going to start at the tool shed. So he's very near all of our campers at the campfire. Next, we're going to randomize our objective tokens. We'll place them in the spaces indicated on our setup card. In addition, we'll be placing locked door tokens and a set of the keys in its designated spot. All right, so we've laid out the tokens indicated on our setup card, and we have our counselors with their starting move and health figures listed. The object of the game is our 4 counselors are going to attempt to escape from the ravenous Otis that is going to be pursuing them. What we need to do is uncover these tokens that are laid around the board in an attempt to get the objectives we need in order to cause a finale and eventually, hopefully, win the game. Each of our counselors is going to begin the game with 2 survival cards. The exception will be Karen. She's inspired, and she's going to start the game with 2 additional survival cards. So we'll lay those out and take a look at the survival cards for each of our characters. All right, we're going to begin by assigning our survival cards to our starting characters. Our first character is Jackson. He's going to start out with 2 survival cards. We'll give this deck a cut and see what Jackson comes up with. His first card is a single-use card, Craven. Play at the end of your turn. Heal all your injuries, then Otis strikes a random counselor. It's a self-preservation card. Okay, we'll keep that underneath, and that's considered to be in our backpack. His second card is Double Cross, single use. Of course you can always count on me. Cancel a single-use survival card as it is being played and add it to your backpack. Another self-preservation card, and that's pretty thematic with Jackson's detached ability. Okay. And now we'll assign 2 survival cards to CJ. First one is Scream for Help. Play when Otis strikes your cabin. Move up to 3 other counselors to your space to help. Okay, we'll put that in the backpack. Next card. Psyche. Single use. You got moted. If a camper is present when Otis strikes your cabin, discard Psyche to automatically win the fight. All right, so he's got 2 cards in his backpack. That's great. All right, now we have Karen. Now Karen is inspired. Karen begins the game with 2 additional survival cards. So we'll be drawing 4 cards for her. Here's the first one. First one is a permanent card called Telekinesis. When fighting, you may roll an 8-sided die if unarmed. On a roll of 1, you lose control of your powers, causing each counselor in your cabin 2 injuries. Then, any campers or cameos in your cabin are immediately killed. So that would probably be best to be used when Karen is by herself. Now these permanent cards we'll place at the top of her card to differentiate those from being in her backpack. Okay, here's her second card. And she's got a single-use card. It was all a dream. It all seems so real. Play at the end of a counselor's turn. Undo everything that happened during that turn. Playable when dead. Okay, that'll go in her backpack. Here's her third card. And this is a single-use card turned around. Excuse me, sir, or ma'am, play at the start of your move phase. Switch locations with another counselor. And that's a self-preservation card. We'll put that into her backpack. And now it is her fourth card. And she has a single-use card, Switched Backpacks. Move your meat, lose your stuff. Jackson. Play at the start of your turn. Switch backpacks with another counselor, then discard this card. Your backpack includes unequipped items, weapons, single-use survival cards, and any other card that states it is in your backpack. Another self-preservation card. All right, so she's got 4 cards, 3 of which are self-preservation. All right, let's move on to Saffron. And finally, we have the lovely Saffron, and she's going to draw 2 survival cards. First one is a single-use card, Gimme. I'll show you how to use that flashlight. Play at any time. Take an item, weapon, objective, camper, or keys from another counselor. You do not have to be in the same space. Okay, that'll go in the backpack. And her last survival card is another single-use card, Search the Cabin. Play before your cabin draw phase. Draw and discard cabin cards until you find a weapon, item, or camper. This counts as your normal draw. Okay, that is great. And that'll complete the setup for our survival cards. All right, the game is now set and we're ready to play. What will happen during a turn is we'll have our counselor turn sequence. Starting with the first player, which will be Jackson. He's going to resolve his move phase, followed by a cabin draw phase, and then an end turn. After he completes that, we move on to the next character, and all the characters will take their turns. Following that, Otis will have his turn sequence. He's going to stalk, and then he's going to try to target one of the characters. And if he crosses paths with them, we will have a combat. Then, at the end turn, we're going to pass our first player marker to the next player, and we would start a new round. Now, during a move for the counselors, they can spend up to the number of movement points equal to what is on their health tracks. At the start of the game, each of our characters has 3 movement points. Movement points are primarily used for moving on the board, but they can be used for other things as well. One of the nuances of the game is how to deal with the objective tokens. What will happen is, we'll just say as an example, we've got our character Jackson here. Now he has 3 movement points. He can move along these darker trails, or he can move along a forest trail. Now if you move along a forest trail, you have to roll a die, and there's a risk that you could be attacked by Otis or get lost. But we'll say he wants to try to go into the commons room and pick up that objective token. He has 3 movement points. So he would spend 1 and 2 to move on top of it. Now, he has a choice. He can either spend his last movement point to reveal the objective token, And then during the cabin draw phase, he would have to draw a cabin card. There is another option. If you move onto a unrevealed objective token during your cabin draw phase, in lieu of taking a cabin card, you can reveal the token instead. Then during your end turn, you're able to pick up items, weapons, keys, or revealed objectives in your space for free. So it kind of depends on what kind of cards have come out of the cabin deck to that point. If you haven't seen any Otis Strikes cards, then you know that those are going to be coming up probably in quick order. So you might want to try to reduce the number of cabin cards you have to draw. In that case, you'd be better off moving on to the objective and then just waiting to pick it up during the cabin draw phase rather than spending a movement point to reveal it and a movement point to pick it up. But it kind of depends on the cards that have come out of the cabin deck. That's a big consideration. Now you'll notice that some of these locations have locked doors. If you have the keys right now are in Morris's office, and we can go and pick those up if we can get there. Those will open locked doors. There's also sets of keys in the cabin deck. So we might be able to find another set of keys when we cycle through the cabin deck. Now I printed out these displays from BGG's files area. Someone created a nature trail card and a counselor turn card. And this kind of just helps to keep you in line with the turn sequence. Those nature trails that I talked about, those green paths, when you try to use one, you spend a movement point and then you roll a die and then see the result. If it ends up that you are unable to move, you can try again if you have additional movement points. But you could become lost or you could succeed. It's either one. Now Otis is not affected by nature trails. He can move on those just as we do on the normal paths. Now the initial strategy for the game kind of depends on the starting cards that you have. That has definitely a bearing on this. In addition, we want to make sure that we take into account the fact that when Otis moves, his current stock value is 2, so he will be able to move up to 2 spaces, and we want to make sure that we're farther than that so that Otis doesn't attack us. So we're probably best served to try to move to the eastern side of the map for the start. Now when Otis is not limited by locked doors, if he moves onto a locked door, he simply busts through it. That ends his move, but he can just bust through those doors. He's big and strong. So we'll begin with Jackson, and nothing in Jackson's backpack right now really would help him too much. So he has 3 movement points, and I think what we'll do is I'm going to send Jackson through the beaver cabin, into the girls' showers, into the bunny cabin, and try to pick up that objective token. So he has a movement of 3. So we'll move him 1, 2, and 3 into the girls' shower. So that completes his movement phase. Now it is the cabin phase. We have to draw a cabin card, and we'll draw one right now. Here is his draw, and he gets a cameo, Sister Credence Harper. And she says, "You go to hell. You go to hell and die." Appears on a random nature trail. She has a stock value of 2, and she'll be targeting the nearest counselor. And her special ability is all counselors draw 2 additional cards when tempting fate. Any counselor that tempts fate in Credence's cabin takes an injury. So the old sister doesn't like anyone tempting fate, it looks like. If Credence crosses paths with a killer, she is killed. All right, so we're going to get out her standee and we'll place it on the board in a random trail. Now we place these cameo cards with the character that drew them. At the end of that character's turn, any cameos that that character has will activate and attempt to do their stalk and target. So we'll place the Sister Credence Harper card with Jackson. And now we're going to make a roll and see where she's going to appear. All of these forest trails have numbers on them, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10. So we're going to roll a 10-sided dice, and we will find out where the good sister is going to appear. The result is a 6, so she's going to appear at Trail 6. Trail 6 is located over here in the buck cabin, so she's checking that area out looking for violators. That finishes up the cabin draw phase for Jackson, and we move on to his end turn. Before his turn ends, there are some final actions available, and that would include re-equipping items and weapons from his backpack, picking up any items, weapons, keys, revealed objectives, or trading items, weapons, campers, objectives, and keys with another counselor in the same space. So with this being the end of Jackson's turn, Sister Credence Harper is going to activate, and she is going to stalk the nearest counselor. She has a stalk level of 2. Cameos cannot use nature trails. They have to use the regular trails. So the closest set of counselors is at the campfire. So she's going to move. She can't move through a locked door. So she's going to try to get around that by taking a different path. And we got to calculate where the nearest path is to the nearest counselor. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So she's going to be going towards Jackson's location. So she'll move 1 and 2 into the commons room. And incidentally, that is how Otis will move. When he's stalking, he will use the same procedure, except he can go using nature trails and he can bust through locks, where cameos and counselors cannot. So we'll move on now to CJ's turn. CJ has a movement level of 3. Now he has a special ability called Coach. Other counselors in your cabin receive +1 to their fight rolls. So it might be a good idea to have another counselor with CJ to take advantage of that +1 fight roll. But the problem is, unless you have a weapon, you cannot fight Otis. You will just lose that encounter and you'd have to panic. So we need to find a weapon. And I think CJ is going to move, I think, to the northwest, and I'll have him maybe check out the stables. There's a objective token up there. So we'll have him move 3. 1, 2, and 3. He's in the little cub cabin, and he is going to now undertake his cabin draw phase. And CJ draws the cabin card, baseball bat. All right, we've got a weapon. It says it's versatile, may be equipped as a 1- or 2-handed weapon, and depending upon how many hands you use determines what type of dice you'll use in an encounter. Well, I think for this opportunity, CJ is probably going to equip that as a 2-handed weapon, and that will give him a D6 when encountering Otis. Now technically this card has to be put into the backpack. We can't equip anything until we get to the end of turn phase, and that's where we can equip and unequip items. Now we would move to the end turn phase, and that is exactly what CJ is going to do. He's going to equip that baseball bat. To the left side of the display is where I'll keep any cameos that are attached to the player. On the right hand side is where we're going to keep our left and right-handed weapons that we've equipped. In this case, we're going to use the baseball bat as a 2-handed weapon, so we're going to put that on the right side of the display, and that's going to use up both of his hands. All right, next up is Karen. Now, Karen has that telekinesis ability, which is extremely powerful. It allows her to roll a D8 if unarmed when she's confronting Otis. But if something happens with that telekinesis, it can cause a lot of damage to some of the other counselors in the room. So we probably want to keep her on her own, if possible, in her own area. So I think what we'll do is I'm going to have Karen move into the beaver cabin and towards the commons area, and we'll see if she can try to pick up that that token in the commons area. So she's going to move 1, 2, and 3 into the beaver cabin. And now Karen is going to draw a cabin card, and she draws a plot twist. Don't look up. Drip, drip. Sherry felt something warm running down her shoulder. Drip, drip. Her eyes drifted to the rafters. +1 to the body count. All counselors in this cabin are horrified. All right, that's not good. So first off, we have to raise the body count by 1. So that is going to increase that to level 2. Otis doesn't gain a benefit yet, but it gets him closer to getting a +1 to his attack, which is not good. And now Karen becomes horrified. So we're going to place a horrified marker on her. And what that does is that reduces her combat strength. When she makes a roll, she gets a -1 dice roll modifier. Now that horrified will last until the end of her next turn, and then we can remove the token. So that's going to bring Karen's turn to a close. We'll move on to Saffron. All right, Saffron has 3 movement points as well. She's at the campfire. So we want to get some distance between her and Otis. And I think I'm going to have her move into the dining hall. She'll move 1, 2, and 3 into the dining hall. I'm going to try to have her come around through this trail and take a look at that objective token that is in the game room. Now Saffron is going to play this card. It's a single-use card called Search the Cabin. Play before your cabin draw phase. Draw and discard cabin cards until you find a weapon, item, or camper. This counts as your normal draw. All right, so we're going to discard that card. And then she is going to keep drawing cabin cards till we get one of those type of items. So here is the first card. First one is a plot twist. So we'll continue to draw. This one is an item. It's a first aid kit. And that one she can keep. That says during any phase, heal 2 injuries from every counselor in your cabin and then discard after use. So that's a pretty powerful card. So we're going to keep that card. The other ones are discarded. And we'll add that to Saffron's backpack. So that's going to end her turn. And then we are going to move on to Otis's turn. So we'll begin with Otis's stalk phase. He's going to use his stalk ability. In this case, it's at 2 right now. That'll allow him to move 2 spaces towards the nearest counselor and attempt to bring them to a fight. So what we do is we calculate who the nearest counselor is based on movement points. Well, the nearest counselor is CJ. He's only 3 movement points away. 1, 2, 3. The other ones are 4 movement points away. Incidentally, Otis can also target a cameo if that was closer than a counselor. So in this case, Otis is going to move towards CJ. He'll move using the nature trail, and he's going to break through this locked door. That destroys the lock, and that does end his movement there, though. So that is going to bring Otis's turn to a close. If he was in a space, in a cabin with counselors or cameos, he would strike. In this case, there are none. So what we do is we take our first player marker, move that to the next active player, in this case CJ, and we'll begin another round. Now one thing I should point out is that when Otis strikes and he's in a cabin, it doesn't affect just the player that Otis is attacking in that space. If there's other counselors in that cabin, all of them are going to eventually have to either fight Otis or panic. So it's everybody in the cabin, not just the person he moves on to. That's an important distinction. So now CJ is up, and he has 3 movement points. He does have a baseball bat, and he's using it with both hands. I think what we're going to do is, since CJ has a weapon, I'm not too afraid of Otis at this point. So we're going to have him move towards the stables. He'll move 1, 2, and 3 into the stables. All right, CJ is going to draw a cabin card. And he draws the card Cherry Bombs. It's an item. Any phase, you may raise or lower the result of any die roll by 1. Discard after 3 uses. All right. So what we do is if we have a item that has multiple uses, the game provides us with these ammunition tokens. And we can use those to chart any type of things that have multiple uses. So we'll put 3 ammo tokens on that card. And then we're going to place that into CJ's backpack. So that's going to bring CJ's turn to a close. We'll move on to Karen. All right, Karen is in the beaver cabin, and I think we're going to have her move and try to pick up that objective in the commons room. She has a movement value of 3. She does possess that telekinesis permanent card. So if she does get attacked, she has some defense. So we'll have her move 1 and 2. Now our choices now would be either to spend a movement point to reveal the token, then we would have to draw a cabin card during our cabin draw phase. If we do not reveal the token, then during her cabin draw phase, in lieu of drawing a card, we can have her reveal the token, and then during her end phase she can pick it up. So I think that's the strategy we're going to use. We don't need to draw cabin cards at this point, only for the players maybe that don't have any type of weapon. So what we'll do then is that we'll end Karen's move and we'll go to the cabin draw phase. In this case, during the cabin draw phase, instead of drawing a card, she's going to reveal the token. And this time it is a first aid station. All right. Now this first aid station objective token is going to remain in that location. And it says here during the end turn, you can heal 1 wound. So that'll be on the board for the rest of the game unless a card removes it. So that is where Karen is at right now. We'll check her cards and see if there's anything that she might want to play. Not really at this time, so we'll move on to Saffron. All right, Saffron wanted to go into the games room here, but Otis showed up. So she doesn't really necessarily want to go and investigate that objective token at this point. So I think what we'll do is we'll have her move back towards the campfire to avoid Otis. Now he's going to be able to move up to 2 spaces. So if we ended up at the campfire, Otis could strike us at the end of the turn. So that is not necessarily a good idea. So I guess I'll have her move 1 and 2. She'll remain in the dining hall, but yet farther away from Otis than 2 points. So now Saffron will draw her cabin card, and this time she gets, oh, it's a camper. She finds Toby. All right, you find your little brother. He has a light source. While Toby is in your care, you can't be horrified or lost. Toby cannot be passed to another counselor. If Toby is ever killed, discard all your survival cards in your grief. You are also horrified. And Toby says, I'm no adopted wuss. I'm telling Mom. Okay, so we're going to give Toby to Saffron. That is excellent. So that'll end her turn, and we're going to move now to Jackson. Jackson is in the girls' shower. All right, Jackson has a move of 3. He doesn't have any cards that he necessarily wants to play yet, so he will use his movement points to move into the bunny cabin. 1 and 2. He moves on to the objective token. He's going to stay there. He won't spend any more movement points. We'll move on to the cabin draw phase. And since he's on an unrevealed objective, instead of drawing the cabin card, I think we will have him reveal the token. And this one is the rope. Okay, that is a finale objective. We can use the rope to either use the barn or boat finale. We need to have keys, a crank and a rope to use the boat, or keys, gas, and a rope to use the barn finale. So we're going to add that token during his end of turn. He will pick this up and we'll put that on his card. So we have one of our finale objectives. That's great. So that's going to bring Jackson's turn to a close. Sister Credence is now going to activate, and she will stalk the nearest counselor. In this case, she's going to move into the space with Karen, and she's watching Karen very closely. Well, so far we have not seen any Otis strike cards in the cabin deck, so I would anticipate that those are going to be coming forthwith. We'll move on to the Otis turn, and he's going to stalk, and we'll see where the nearest character is by movement points. We've got 1, 2, 3 to CJ, 1, 2, 3 to Saffron. Now, in the case of a tie, in the targeting of Otis, we go through a list of priorities. The first one is target the cabin with the fewest campers, cameos, and counselors. All right, well, Saffron has not only herself, but her little brother, Toby, with her. So in this case, the fewest campers, cameos, and counselors would be the cabin with CJ. So he's going to move there. And he'll move 1 and 2. All right. So that's going to bring Otis's turn to a close. We'll move our first player marker from CJ to Karen, and we'll start another round. All right, Karen is in the commons room. She has that telekinesis ability. And I think what she's going to do is I'm going to have her move and pick up the keys in Morris's office. So she's going to move 1 and 2 into Morris's office. Now, as there is no unrevealed objective token in her space, she's going to have to draw a cabin card. So we will do that now. And Karen draws the card, the Tarot, Item Occult. When drawn, place this card in front of you. Draw 5 cabin cards. Look at the cards, then shuffle and place them face down on this card. The counselors may not begin a finale while the tarot is still in play. Counselors may draw from the tarot instead of a cabin deck on their cabin draw phase. Discard when there are no more cards on the tarot. Okay, so we're going to have to draw 5 cabin cards, and we can look at those, and then we'll see what we want to do. So we'll see what these 5 cabin cards include. First one is Fooling Around card. Rule number 1. Okay. Next one is a Shard of Glass. It's a weapon. Okay. The third card is a occult card, the Spirit Board. All right. The fourth card is a weapon, a rotary phone. And the fifth card is a plot twist, Lost in the Woods. Okay, so there's nothing really terrible involved in these. So what we're going to do now is it says that we are to look at the cards and then shuffle them and place them face down on the card. And then we were able to either draw a cabin card or one of these cards. We have to get rid of these tarots before we can do our finale. So we'll place that card with Karen. All right, now it is the end of Karen's turn, and she's going to pick up these keys. And now she can start unlocking locked doors, and not to mention, this is going to serve as one of our finale objectives. So we'll place that on Karen's card. So far, we're doing okay. So we'll place the keys on Karen's card, and since this is the end of her turn, we can remove that Horrified token from her. That'll prevent her from having that -1 dice roll modifier during a fight with Otis. So we'll move on now to Saffron and her brother Toby. All right, Saffron is in the dining hall, and she doesn't have any weapons at this point, so it might be nice for her to get a weapon. I think what we'll do is I'll have her move through the dining hall and try to get to the game room and that token that's there. Looks like Otis is going to be busy with CJ for a while, so we'll have her use her movement points 1, 2, and 3 into the dining hall, and then she's going to draw a cabin card. Now she has the choice of taking a standard cabin card or one of the cards from the tarot. And I think we'll start working on those tarots. We got to get rid of those. So we'll draw a card from the tarot, and she draws a rotary phone. It's a weapon. It says stun. You may move 2 spaces away after winning a fight with Otis, but Otis stays on the board. It's a single-handed weapon, allowing her to draw or roll a blue-sided, 4-sided die. So we'll keep that. That's great. We'll move on to the end phase for her, and she's going to equip that rotary phone. So we'll put that in her left hand. And I think that will be it for Saffron. Now, before we move on from Saffron, she does have this ability called Conscientious Objector. During her move phase, Saffron may shuffle a weapon card back into the cabin deck and draw a survival card. And I think that might be better than that rotary phone. So let's do that. We're going to shuffle this card back into the cabin deck. And then she's going to draw a survival card. That might be more beneficial for her. She draws It's Only Me, single-use card. Boy, are you ever jumpy. Play when Otis strikes another counselor. The fight is canceled. Remove the Otis pawn from that space and replace it with your own. Excluding yourself, all counselors in the cabin are horrified. Well, that's not too great of a card, but we'll keep that. We'll put that in her backpack as a single use only. All right. All right, now we'll move on with Jackson. And right now he's got a rope, so we're basically looking for, if we could find a crank, we'd be able to take the boat finale. But we have to get rid of those cabin cards that are associated with the tarot for Karen. So I think what we'll do is we'll have Jackson move towards the boys' shower. There is a token up there that we can reach. And so we'll try to do it that way. He'll move 1, 2, and 3 back into the beaver cabin. All right, we have a choice now. We can take a cabin card from the deck or a card from the tarot. And we'll take one from the tarot. And that card is revealed to be a shard of glass. It's a weapon. Self-inflicted. If you win a fight with the shard of glass, receive 1 injury. Okay. It's a single-handed weapon that offers a 4-sided die +1 during combat, so it's not bad. All right. Jackson is going to take that card. Since it's the end of his turn, he will equip that card. And that is in his left hand right now. Now it is Sister Credence's turn to activate. She's going to stalk the nearest counselor. In this case, it's going to be Karen. She's the closest. 1, 2, 3 to Jackson. 1, 2 to Karen. So she'll move into Morris's office and follow Karen around. All right, now we'll move on to CJ's turn. CJ has that baseball bat, so I'm not real afraid of Otis at this point. So I think what he will do, CJ is going to move 1 movement point into the stable area with that token. And he'll end his move there. What we'll do now is in the cabin draw phase, instead of drawing a cabin card, we're going to reveal the token. And in this case, it is Otis Strikes. Okay, so in that case, Otis will move to his space. And we're going to have our first fight. All right, Otis is going to strike now. Otis will roll his attack die listed on his card. Currently, that is a D4. So that is what he's going to do. Here is the attack on CJ. The result is a 1. All right, so unless CJ rolls a 1, anything else, he'll win this fight. CJ is going to be using the baseball bat. It's a 2-handed weapon, and he gets to roll a D6 with that. So that's what he will do. Here is the roll. He rolls a 4, so CJ has won the battle. He's clubbed him over the head, and Otis creeps away back into the darkness. When Otis is defeated, he moves off the board. And he'll return during his phase. Right now he's considered to be lurking. So what will happen is at the start of his phase, he's going to determine where he, from the lurking position, will roll on the nature trail and he'll appear there, and then he will perform his stalk from that location. So far, so good. And that's going to complete the round. And now Otis is going to activate. He's currently lurking. So our first step for Otis is to find out where he's going to reappear. We're going to make a lurking roll. He'll be rolling a d10, and we'll place him on the nature trail associated with the roll. The result is an 8. So he's going to go to nature trail 8, and that's going to be right here. He is going to appear in the beaver cabin. Now Otis is going to stalk. And obviously Jackson is the closest character, so he is going to move into Jackson's space and he's going to confront him. So we're going to have another fight. All right, Otis is still with an attack level of a D4, so we'll start out with his attack. He rolls a 4. That is not good. Jackson is currently has equipped a shard of glass. He's going to have a D4 plus 1. But if he wins the fight, he's going to receive an injury from that shard of glass. So either way, it's going to be a problem. We'll see if we can win it, though. We need to get a better than a 4. Here is Jackson's roll plus 1. He rolled a 1. Plus 1 is 2, so Jackson has lost. What's going to happen now is he's going to take damage, and then he has to panic. Let's take a look at Jackson's card. All right, so Jackson is going to take a wound. That'll reduce his movement value down to 2. Now he has to panic. Now panic, you must move the number of spaces indicated by your panic rating. So Jackson is going to panic, and he'll move 2 spaces. We'll have him move 1 and 2 into the commons room. That's where he'll panic to. That's going to bring the round to a close. We'll move the first player marker from Karen to Saffron. All right, Saffron is in the dining hall, and her and her brother Toby are going to move into the games room. She'll move 1 space, occupying the space with an objective token. She'll end her move there. We'll go on to the cabin draw phase, and since she's occupying a place with an unrevealed objective, we will reveal that instead of drawing a card. And this is the crank. That's what we needed. We'll be able to take the boat objective now. We have all the items that we'll need to accomplish that. We'll give this token now to Saffron. So we're going to need to get at minimum Jackson with the rope, Karen with the keys, and Saffron with the crank to the boathouse, the swimming area. And once we're there, we spend a movement point to start the boat finale. That is a possibility. All right, that's going to finish Saffron's turn. We'll move to Jackson's turn. He has a movement value of 2 now. He's wounded. Now we've got all the items we need for a finale, and that would be at the boat. So we have a choice. We can try to have Jackson move to the boys' shower and try to pick up that extra token that might give us a little bit more flexibility, or maybe an item or something. Or we can have him start moving around to get to the swimming area and the boat finale. Let's see what we want to do. Well, the problem is Jackson only has a move of 2, so if he moves 1, 2, that'll place him there. When Otis activates, he would move 1, taking the forest trail 2. So that could be a problem. I think we'll try it though. So we'll move Jackson 1 and 2 into the buck cabin. All right, once there, he's going to take a cabin card. We're going to draw that from the tarot, so we can try to get rid of those. We have to get rid of those cards before we can attempt to win the game. And he draws the card, Spirit Board, item Occult. During your move phase, you may attempt to contact the spirit world. Roll a d10. If the total is less than the current body count, every counselor draws 2 survival cards. If you fail, all counselors are horrified. Discard after use. Okay, we'll place that in Jackson's backpack. Well, that probably wouldn't be a good card to play at this point. The body count is at 2. So we'd have to roll either a 0 or 1 to be successful. So we'll just keep that in his backpack for right now. Now, Sister Credence is going to activate. Sister Credence is already in a space with a counselor, so she won't move. She's going to stay in Morris's office at that location. That'll finish Jackson's turn. We'll move on to CJ. All right, CJ is equipped now with that baseball bat, and he's currently at the stable. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to try to use the nature trail to get CJ to the swimming area. So he's going to move 1 movement point, and he's going to spend a movement point to attempt to use the nature trail. We're going to roll a d6, and then we'll consult the nature trail table and see what happens. Okay, here is the roll. We're looking for 5 or 6. We've got a 3, and that says nothing. Counselor may expend another movement point and try again. All right, so he's already spent 2 of his 3. We'll try 1 more, and he'll attempt to use that nature trail. Here's his 3rd movement point. He rolled a 4, and that's nothing. So he'll have to stay where he is. All right, CJ is going to draw a cabin card, and we're going to take it from the tarot. There's 1 card left there, so this card is revealed to be Fooling Around. Rule number 1. We weren't doing anything. We were just move a counselor of your choice to your space. You begin fooling around. Tempt Fate 5. Oh boy. I'll explain the Tempt Fate after we decide on who is going to move there. And I think we're going to bring Karen over there. She's going to move from Morris's office to that location. Now we have to resolve this fooling around. Fooling around says it often requires Tempt Fate check. We pick a counselor to move to your space and follow the card's directions. Well, we've selected Karen, and Tempting Fate says when doing something incredibly stupid, risky, or naughty, counselors tempt fate. When a card states Tempt Fate and a number, we would draw that number of cabin cards. We'll discard all cards except for red Otis cards. We ignore the card's text and discard it. If at least 1 red card is drawn, Otis strikes. Then add 1 to Otis's attack roll for each additional red card drawn, this fight only. So this could be dangerous. And we'll take a look at the 5 cabin cards. I'll do those 1 at a time and we'll see what we get. Here's the first one. That is a plot twist, so we don't have to worry about that. Here's the next one. And that is a plot twist. We can discard that. Here's the third, and that is an Otis Strikes. So right now we've got 1 Otis Strikes card. All right, here is the fourth. That is an instant camera, an item. And the last one is another Otis Strikes. Okay, so Otis is going to strike that cabin, and he's going to do so at a +1 for his attack modifier. So Otis interrupted them when they were fooling around, and now they're going to pay for it. So what's going to happen now is we have to nominate each character in the cabin where Otis strikes is at risk. So what we have to do is each one has to decide if they're going to fight or if they will panic. And we can nominate these in the order we choose. I'm obviously going to choose CJ to go first. He is going to try to protect Karen, and he's going to fight off Otis, hopefully. CJ is using his baseball bat with 2 hands. He's going to get a D6. Otis will be rolling a D4, but he gets a +1 because of the fooling around. He caught them in a precarious position. Okay, so we're going to make the roll, and we'll see what Otis's attack strength is. Here is the roll. He rolled a 4, +1 is 5. That is not good. So Otis is sitting there with a 5. Now we'll make the roll for CJ. He has a baseball bat. That gives him a D6. We need to basically get a 6 to win this. So, here is the roll. He rolled a 4. That's modified to nothing. He's got a 4. Otis has a 5, so we've lost it at this point. And it says we have these cherry bombs. I wonder if that would help us. During any phase, you may raise or lower the result of any die roll by 1. Discard after 3 uses. Well, we're going to use 2 cherry bombs. That's what we'll do. We'll use 2 of the 3 cherry bombs to bring up CJ's total to 6, and that will defeat Otis 6-5. And I think that's a good use of the cherry bombs. So Otis has been driven off. He'll move out, and he will be stalking, lurking in the woods somewhere. So we've won that fight. And that should teach those 2 for fooling around in the stables. All right, that's going to complete CJ's turn. Now, if we wanted to, we could, during this end of turn phase, we could, since we're with another character, we could exchange some items if we choose. We can trade them. That is a possibility. We're able to trade items, weapons, campers, objectives, and keys. We can't trade single-use items. Single-use cards. It's got to be item, weapon, camper, or objective, or keys. I don't think we're going to be doing any exchanges, so that's going to bring CJ's turn to a close. We'll move on to Karen. And Karen is now in the same space with CJ. All right, Karen is, I think, going to attempt to use this nature trail to get to the swimming area. We'll try that. So she's going to make a D6 roll, and we'll consult the nature trail table. Here is the roll. She rolls a 3. That's nothing. So she spent 1 movement point. She'll try another movement point and try it again. She rolls another 3. Not good. All right, she'll spend her 3rd and final movement point to attempt to get to the swimming area. She rolls a 4, and that is nothing again. So we're having trouble using the nature trails. So she's going to remain at the stables, and she'll have to draw a cabin card. And I think we're going to take the card from Karen's tarot, and that will be the last card in that grouping. So we'll draw the last card from the tarot, and I'm pretty sure that it was a Lost in Woods card. And that's what it is. Lost in the woods. Move to the woods. Follow the lost directions on your next turn. Okay, so we have to place Karen in the Lost in the Woods box. So we'll place Karen in the Lost in the Woods box, and she's going to have to roll a D6 and figure out what happens on her next turn. That was the last cabin card that was on that tarot card, so we'll be able to remove the tarot card. We're no longer under its limitations, and at least that is a good thing. Now we're able to actually go to the finale without any restrictions. I think I have one correction, and I don't believe that we moved Sister Credence during Jackson's turn. I think what I'm going to do is look back on the footage and see if she should have moved before we continue on. I look back on the footage, and Sister Credence was in a space with Karen at the time, so she didn't need to move, so we're good to go. That'll complete Karen's turn, and now we'll move on to Otis's turn. All right, Otis is currently lurking somewhere off the board, so we're going to make a D10 roll and find out where he will reappear. He'll reappear in the nature trail number 5. So we'll place Otis on number 5, and that's at the little cub cabin. All right, now he is going to stalk. He has a stalk of 2. Let's see who the closest character is. We've got 1, 2 to Jackson. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 to Saffron. 1, 2, 3, 4 to CJ. So he can't target Karen. She's lost in the woods. So he's going to move towards Jackson. He'll use 2 movement points, 1 and 2, and he's going to strike at Jackson in that cabin. All right. So Otis is attacking Jackson right now. And Otis is going to be rolling a d4. And we'll make the roll right now. Here's Otis's attack. And he rolls a 3. All right, Jackson is currently armed with a shard of glass. That'll give him a d4 plus 1. But if he is successful, he'll take a wound from the shard of glass. So right now, Otis has 3. Here is Jackson's roll. He rolls a 1. Plus 1 is 2. He's lost the fight. And he's going to take another wound, and he'll have to panic. So Jackson takes another wound. That's going to move his movement down to 1. And now he has to panic. He's going to be moving 2 spaces. And I think Jackson is going to panic into the commons room. So we'll have him move 1 and 2. And that is the end of Otis's activation. We'll move our first player marker, and it goes back to Jackson. So he's going to activate at the start of this next round. So we're going to start our next round. Jackson is up, and he has a movement right now of 1. So he is going to take that opportunity to move into the beaver cabin. And there he's going to draw a cabin card. And here's his cabin card draw, and that is, Otis Special. It's called Lung Capacity. You are dragged to the swimming area. Drowning. While drowning a counselor, Otis will not stalk, and the counselor may only struggle on their turn. Struggle. He's going to roll a d4. On a 1 to 3, glug, 1 injury. On a roll of 4, escape. Move 3 spaces away. Discard if you escape or Otis strikes another counselor or cameo. All right. So that would move Jackson to the swimming area. Well, I think this is a critical enough of a situation where Karen is going to play a card. She's going to play this card, It Was All a Dream. Let's take a closer look at that. That card says, play at the end of a counselor's turn. Undo everything that happened during that turn. Playable when dead. All right, so undo everything that happened during the turn. Well, that means that Jackson would not have drawn this lung capacity card. That is for certain. And he would not have moved into the beaver cabin. He would be back in the commons area. So we'll put him back there. I think that would have been a good use of that card from Karen. That lung capacity card would have been pretty damaging. We would have had Jackson over at the swimming area, but he'd be taking injuries 50% of the time. So I think that was a good use of the card. That will complete Jackson's turn. We'll move on to CJ now. All right, CJ has the baseball bat. And I think what he's going to do is we're going to take the long way around. I'm not going to try that forest trail anymore. We'll move CJ 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3 to the game room. And there he is going to draw his cabin card. And CJ draws the card. Oh, it's a camper. It's lunchbox. When Otis strikes, you can safely run 2 spaces away. Lunchbox isn't so lucky. Discard the poor little guy, body count +1. And he says, come on, wait up, guys. Guys. All right, so we're going to give Lunchbox to CJ. That'll protect him a little bit. All right. That is going to end CJ's turn. He's not going to make any changes to his hands, so we'll move on now to Karen. Karen is currently lost in the woods. So Karen is lost in the woods. We're going to roll a d6 and find out what happens to her. We don't want a 1 or 2. That would be an Otis strikes. Here is the roll. She rolls a 3, and that is 1 injury. Okay, so Karen is going to take an injury that's going to lower her movement ability down to 2. And then it says, then return to a random trail. So we'll make a roll for a random trail for Karen and see where she comes out. She's going to come out in trail 4. That's the tool shed. So we'll place Karen at the tool shed, and that was her turn. Now we have to go to our cabin draw phase. Karen is at the tool shed. We'll draw a cabin card for her. And she draws the card. Uh-oh. Environment. Indian burial ground. But how do you know the bears are Indians? Jody. For as long as this card is in play, the effects of Horrified are doubled. To discard Indian burial ground, a counselor in the woods must discard a weapons, item, or camper. Raise the body count if a camper was discarded. So that environment card is going to stay active. We'll leave that out on the board. Horrified results will be doubled. So I guess that means -2 to your attack rolls. And that's going to complete Karen's turn. We'll move on to Saffron and her brother Toby. So I'm going to place that Indian burial ground card next to the board. And now we'll move on to Saffron. All right, Saffron is in the games room. She has a movement of 3. And I think I'll have her move to the swimming area. We'll move 1, 2, and 3 into the swimming area. Saffron currently has the crank. She's reached that location, and now we'll draw a cabin card. And she draws the card, a pocket knife. That is a weapon. It's better than nothing. One-handed weapon allows her a D4 to roll, so that is great. I think she's going to keep that, and we'll eventually equip that into her right hand. And that's going to complete Saffron's turn. Now we'll go to Otis's turn. All right, Otis is going to stalk, and his target is going to be, unfortunately, Jackson. So he'll stalk him 2 points, and he's going to attack him in the commons room. Uh-oh. All right, Otis is going to strike. He's got a D4 for his attack value. Here's his roll. The roll is a 1, so that's a good chance for Jackson to win this battle. Jackson is going to be using his shard of glass. He gets a +1, so he will win, but it's a self-inflicted wound. If you win a fight with the shard of glass, you receive an injury. So we'll make the roll for Jackson, +1. He rolled a 1, +1 is 2, so he's defeated Otis. Otis is driven off. He'll move off the board, and Jackson is going to, unfortunately, take another wound. So we'll move Jackson's wound marker down. He gains a little bit of movement back now with some adrenaline. He's up to 2 movement points, but he's 2 spaces away from death, basically, so that's not good. That's going to bring the turn to a close, and we will readjust our first player marker, and that's going to be CJ. And we'll start a new round. All right, CJ's up next. Now, in order to start this finale, we've got to get Jackson and Karen to the swimming area, and then we'll be able to start the finale. So I think CJ is going to move there as well. He has that coach ability that would give a +1 to any fight rolls for other counselors. So we'll move him 1, 2, and 3 into the swimming area, and there he's going to take a cabin card draw. And CJ draws the card, Timmy Teddy. It's an item. When Otis strikes your cabin, discard Timmy Teddy to cancel his attack. Then all counselors in the location may immediately move 2 spaces. Well, that's a great card. We'll add that to CJ's backpack. That is great. And that is going to bring his turn to a close. We'll move on now to Karen. Karen has a movement value of 2 currently. So we're going to have her move, I think, towards the boathouse and the swimming area. She'll move 1, 2, and enter the dining hall. And there she will draw a cabin card. And she draws the card, 7 minutes. Fooling around card. Ever play 7 minutes in heaven? Everyone wins. Together, you and a counselor of your choice must pick either the sports cage or tool shed. Then move to that location and begin fooling around. And this is Attempt Fate 7. Whoa. All right, well, I think what we're going to do is Karen is going to move to the tool shed, and she is going to be joined with Jackson. We'll take Jackson there. And now we have to do Attempt Fate 7. All right. And to make things even worse, I forgot about the Sister Credence Harper card. It says special, all counselors draw 2 additional cards when tempting fate. Any counselor that tempts fate in her cabin takes an injury, so she swacks them. All right, so we're going to have to do 7 cards. Oh, no. All right, we've got 7 cabin cards out there, and we're basically just looking for red cards. Here's the first one, and that is a Lost in the Woods card. We can discard that. The next one is an environment card. We'll discard that. Here's another one, and that is an Otis Strikes. Okay. Next card is a brown card, Premonition. Get rid of that. Here's the next one. That's a red card. Here's the next one. Another red card. Oh my goodness. And a 4th red card. Oh, this is terrible. Absolutely terrible. What's going to happen is Otis is going to strike at the shed and interrupt our 2 lovebirds. And he is going to strike with a +3 to his roll because there's a total of 4 red cards there. That is not good. Well, the only chance we're going to have, I think, is for Karen to step up. Karen is going to step up, and she's going to use her telekinesis. That will allow her to roll a D8 if unarmed. We'll take care of Otis's roll first. He's going to be rolling a D4, and he'll be adding 3 to the result. Here is the roll. He rolled a 2. 2 plus 3 is 5, so Karen is going to have to roll a 6, 7, or 8 with a D8 in order to win this battle. Otherwise, she's going to panic, and then we have to go to Jackson, and he'll have to confront Otis. Here is the roll. She rolled a 5, and that is not enough. That is a tie. 5 to 5. Let's see if there's any cards we can play. There are not. So Karen is going to take a wound. That'll move her down to 1 movement point. And now she has to panic 2. So she will have to move 2 spaces during her panic. And I guess we will move her towards the boathouse. So she'll move 1 into the campfire, 1 into the dining hall. Now Jackson has to confront Otis. Mercifully, the bonus that Otis got for the Tempt Fate only applies to the first fight. So this will be a standard fight against Jackson. And here is Otis's roll. He gets a D4. He rolled a 2. All right, Jackson is going to have to use his shard of glass again. He gets a D4 plus 1. But if he defeats Otis, he's going to take another wound. Here is the roll. He rolled a 2, plus 1 is 3. He has defeated Otis. Otis moves off the board, but Jackson takes another wound from the shard of glass. So we move Jackson's health monitor down 1 more. He's within 1 of death, but with the adrenaline in his body, he has 3 movement points. All right, that finishes Karen's turn, and now we're going to move on to Saffron. Now, she's at the proper location that we need for the boat finale, but she's waiting for Karen and Jackson to arrive with the other items. So I think she's just going to remain where she is, and we'll draw a cabin card for her. And she draws the card. Uh-oh. Through the window, an Otis special. Lock the doors. We're all safe in here. Every counselor in this cabin receives 1 injury from shattering glass. Then you are moved to the campfire where Otis strikes. And then at the bottom, it says that a token will appear at Morris's office. So we have to place a objective token at Morris's office, but every counselor in this cabin receives 1 injury from the shattering glass. So that means that Saffron and CJ will each take a wound, and then they're going to be moved to the campfire where Otis will strike. Uh-oh. So Saffron and CJ are moved to the campfire, and Otis is going to strike. All right. I think we're going to nominate CJ for the first round of the attack. He'll use his baseball bat. That'll give him a D6. Otis will be rolling a D4. And here is Otis's attack against CJ. He rolled a 1. All right, as long as CJ can do better than a 1, he'll win the fight. Here's the roll. He rolled a 5, so we've defeated Otis. He goes off the board. He is now lurking. All right, so we've won that fight at least. That's great. The through the window card is now completed, and we'll move on now to Jackson's turn. All right, Jackson has a move value of 3, but he's very badly wounded. So I guess we're going to have him move into the dining hall. He'll move 1, 2, and 3 into the dining hall, and that's where he's going to draw his cabin card. And he draws the card Ammo. It's an item. Any phase. Discard ammo to reload 1 ranged weapon in your cabin that is out of ammo. Draw ammo tokens equal to the weapon's starting ammo. All right, well, that's going to be in the backpack for the time being, so we'll park that in Jackson's backpack. Now we have to decide. There is a card that Jackson can play, and I'm going to think about this. He has this card, Craven. Play at the end of your turn. Heal all of your injuries, then Otis strikes a random counselor. And that's a self-preservation card. I think he's going to do it because that would heal all of his wounds. So I think we're going to do that. We're going to move Jackson all the way back to the top of his move and health display. And then Otis is going to strike a random counselor. Well, it says a random counselor. And does that include Jackson himself, or is it just the remaining counselors? That I don't know. I'm going to see if I can find an answer in the frequently asked questions. No, I couldn't find an answer, so let's just take a look at the card. Craven. Play at the end of your turn. Heal all of your injuries. Then Otis strikes a random counselor. So I guess it would include him as well. So we're going to make a die roll. I'll use a D4. 1 is for Jackson, 2 is for CJ, 3 is for Karen, and 4 is for Saffron. And then Otis will strike that character. Here's the roll. The roll is a 2, and that's going to be CJ. CJ is currently at the campfire. So once again, Otis is going to strike, and CJ is going to step up to the front to guard Saffron, and he's going to use his baseball bat. We'll start out with Otis's attack. He has an attack of 4. Here's the roll. The roll is a 2. So CJ is going to use his baseball bat. He gets a D6, and as long as he can roll higher than a 2, he will win the encounter. Here is the roll. He rolled a 1. All right, well, we only have 1 cherry bomb left. So I think what will happen is this. I probably should have used this earlier, but I'm going to use this now, and you'll have to award me a little slack in this. I'm going to use the Timmy Teddy item, and that says when Otis strikes your cabin, discard Timmy Teddy to cancel his attack. Then all counselors in all locations may immediately move 2 spaces. So I'm going to use that as though I would have done it before Otis launched his attack. And I would have done that, I think. So Timmy Teddy is now played. Otis is off the board, I believe. Cancels his attack. No, he just stays there. But all counselors on the board can move 2 spaces, so we will do that. So all counselors will move 2 spaces, and we're going to head them towards the swimming area. So we'll move 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1 and 2. So that is where we're at. That's going to end Jackson's turn, and now Sister Credence is going to activate. She will move 2 spaces towards the nearest counselor. So she'll move 1, 2 into the commons area. And that's going to bring Jackson's turn to a close. And now Otis is going to strike. He will stalk. He's got a stalk of 2. And he's going to enter 1, 2, entering the space with CJ and Saffron. And he'll launch another attack. So once again, CJ steps to the front to guard Saffron, and he will battle Otis. Otis is going to launch an attack using a D4. And here is the roll. He rolls a 2. All right. CJ is going to use his bat, and he needs to get a 3 or better. Here is his roll. And he rolled a 1. Oh! So he's lost. That is not good. So CJ is going to have to... Well, wait a minute. We have another option here. Yes, we do. It says here on this psych card, if a camper is present when Otis strikes your cabin, discard psych to automatically win the fight. That's what we're going to do. We're going to use that card that will automatically win the fight against Otis. Otis is going to be removed from the board, and CJ has won the fight courtesy of this psych card. That is great. All right. So that brings the round to a close. We'll move our first player marker to Karen, and she's going to start the next round. All right, we're going to begin a new round, and we'll begin with Karen. Karen has only 1 movement point, unfortunately, but she's not real far away from the swimming area, so she'll move into the space with Jackson, and then she's going to take her cabin card. Now the problem is all of the characters are in the dining hall, so if Otis strikes, all of them are going to be in jeopardy. So I hope we don't get an Otis strikes. Here's the card, and it is a butcher knife. It's a weapon. You may re-roll your butcher knife result once per fight. You must accept the second roll. It's a one-handed weapon, and it uses a D6. That is great. We're going to give that to Karen. And at the end of her turn, she's going to equip that card. We'll put that in her left hand. That is great. All right, that ends her turn. We'll move on to Saffron. Saffron has a movement also of 1. So we've got some slow characters here. She's going to move 1 into the middle of the dining hall. And I think before Saffron draws her cabin card, she's going to play this first aid card that she has. It says, any phase, heal 2 injuries from every counselor in your cabin and discard after use. So we'll do that. That'll move up Saffron back up to full, Karen up to full, CJ up to full, and Jackson is already at full. So that's a good play. We'll do that. And now we'll draw our cabin card and see what that is. And that card is revealed to be, a plot twist. Jump the bear. Hey! Choose. Go for it. Move to Otis's location and place him on a random nature trail. If you succeed... If he is lurking, place him on a random nature trail. If you succeed, draw an out-of-play objective or chicken out. Immediately skip to Otis's turn. I'm going to have to think about that. I think we're going to chicken out. Otis is currently off the board, so the odds on him arriving at this space are unlikely. So we're going to chicken out with the Jump the Bear card. That is going to end the entire rounds, and we'll skip right to Otis's turn. And that's what we're going to do. So we'll begin by, Otis is currently lurking, so we'll find out where he is going to reappear. We'll roll a d10 and see where he comes out, and then he'll do his stalk from there. I hope this was the right choice. Here's the roll. He rolls a 9, so he's going to appear at cabin 9. That's in the girls' shower. So that worked out to our advantage. Otis is going to appear at number 9, the girls' shower. Then he's going to stalk, and he'll move closest possible way he can go, which will be towards the bunny cabin. 1, 2, and that will end the round. We'll move our first player marker from Karen to Saffron, and we'll start a new round. Courtesy of Saffron's first aid kit, now everybody is fully healed, so we've got our full movement points. Saffron is going to begin with a move, and she will move 1, 2, 3 to the boat finale area in the swimming area. That's great. And now Saffron is going to draw a cabin card, and we'll see what she gets. She ends up with a broken bottle. It's a weapon. It could be thrown. Discard broken bottle to end another pawn's movement before it enters your space. It's a single-handed weapon, and it uses a d4. Well, Saffron has a pocket knife right now, so she could equip that, and I think she will. She'll equip that broken bottle in her right hand, and that will bring her turn to a close. We'll move on to Jackson. Jackson has a movement of 3. He'll also move into the swimming area. 1, 2. And he'll draw his cabin card. Here is the draw, and that one is a crowbar. It's a weapon. Nature's lockpick. Move into a space with a lock to remove it. It's a two-handed weapon. Well, I think he's going to take that, and he'll replace that with the shard of glass that he's currently carrying. He'll put the shard of glass in his backpack, and he'll equip that two-handed weapon, the crowbar. That's great. Next up is CJ. CJ has a movement of 3, so we'll have him move 3. 1, 2, 3. He's in the swimming area now, and he'll take his cabin card draw. Here is the draw, and it is, an Otis special. I think he's dead. How can you be sure? Place this card in front of Otis. The next time Otis is defeated in a fight, he remains on the board. Then discard the card. Okay, we'll place that on Otis's card. It wasn't too bad. It could have been worse. That will finish CJ's turn. And now we'll move on to Karen. Karen is going to move 1, 2 into that boathouse area. All right. Now she's going to draw her cabin card. Here is the draw, and it's clumsy, plot twist. While running through the dark, you trip and hurt yourself. Receive 1 injury. If you have a weapon equipped, receive 2 injuries. All right, so Karen does have a weapon equipped, so she'll take 2 wounds, and we'll move her down accordingly. So Karen takes 2 wounds, and now her movement is down to 1. Okay. All right, so that is going to bring Karen's turn to a close. We're going to move on to Otis's turn. We're ready to take the finale. We can start that at the beginning of the players holding the objectives have to agree, and as long as they're in that finale space at the start of a movement, we can undertake that finale, and that's what we're going to do. But first, Otis is going to activate. All right, Otis is going to move. He's going to move 1, 2. He'll bust through that lock in the bunny cabin. He's trying to make his way there. That's going to end his turn. We're going to move our first player marker to Jackson, and Jackson is at the finale. Now, reading the start of finale carefully, it says to begin a finale, all 3 objectives must be taken to the space connected to the red arrow. That's here. And then they must agree to start the finale during one of their movement phases, or wait for stragglers. A counselor who holds the majority of the required objectives may start the finale without the consent of the others. All counselors in the cabin connected to the red arrow are then moved to the red arrow. So we don't have to have CJ in that space. He's in that cabin. And now we can move everyone to the boat finale. They're all there. We have our rope. We've got our keys. And we've got the crank, which Saffron has. And checking out our objectives for the top boat card. Keys, crank, and rope. So we're good to go. I should have that in frame for you. Keys, crank, and rope. Now, one thing that's important to point out is when you're on the red arrow is not considered to be a space. So that means that certain cards in your hand might not be able to be played in that finale. It will depend on how it's listed on the card. So we're going to undertake our finale, and it's turned out to be Grizzly Falls. We begin by taking the tippy test. The rope carrier must roll a d10. Our rope carrier was Jackson. So Jackson will be making a d10 roll. All right. It says here, if the total is less than the number of counselors and campers in the boat, discard campers and each counselor takes an injury. All right, well, the total number is 4. We've got 4 counselors, and we also have 2 campers. We've got Lunchbox and we've got Toby. So we're going to need to roll. That total is 6. If it's less than 6, we're going to take that injury. So let's make the roll. Here is the roll. The roll is a 6. All right, so we've passed that. Let's double check. If the total is less than the number. Okay, so it's not. So we've passed that. That's great. We'll move on to the falls now. It says each counselor must roll a d6, and that will tell us what the results will be. We'll begin with Jackson. Here's his roll. He rolled a 1, and it says Otis pulls you over the falls. Receive 3 injuries. All right. So Jackson receives 3 injuries, 1, 2, and 3. He's still alive. That first aid kit from Saffron was a lifesaver. Next, we'll make the roll for CJ. Here is the roll. He rolled a 1. Otis pulls you over the falls. Receive 3 injuries. So we'll give CJ 3 injuries. 1, 2, 3. He's still alive, but barely. Next is Karen. Karen has a couple of wounds already, so let's see what happens to her. Here's the roll. She rolls a 6, and that's escape. She has escaped. And finally, we've got Saffron and her brother Toby. Saffron is fully healed. Here's the roll. She rolls a 2, and that's fight Otis alone. Panic equals death. All right, so Saffron has to fight has to fight Otis all by herself. All right, so Saffron has to fight Otis all by herself. So Otis is there. Saffron has 2 items in her hands. She has a pocket knife in one hand and a broken bottle in the other. Both of them are 4-sided dice. I'm going to see if she can use both weapons. I think so. And the rules for fight say yes, the players choose who will fight. To fight, a counselor rolls dice for the weapons and items they have equipped, then adds any bonuses they might have to their total, or subtract if horrified. So it looks like she's able to roll the d4 for each and then add those together. She has a pocket knife and a broken bottle equipped. Both of those are d4s. So she will do that. But we're going to start with Otis's attack first. He's currently at a d4, so let's see what Otis gets. Otis rolls a 2, so 2 for Otis. She's going to get 2 d4 rolls, and we'll see if she can beat him. Here's the first one. This will be the pocket knife. She rolled a 2, so she's tied him there. She gets now the broken bottle. Here is the D4 roll. She's rolled a 2, so that's 4, and she's defeated Otis. That is awesome. And the card reads, if any counselors survive the falls, Otis crashes to the rocks below, but no body is ever recovered. The counselors who survived Grizzly Falls win the game. The end. All right. So every one of our counselors, Jackson, CJ, Karen, and Saffron, have been awarded a trophy, and they've all won and escaped Otis at Camp Grizzly. What a great finish. So that's going to complete this playthrough of Camp Grizzly. This was the first edition. And one more time, I'm going to remind everyone that they do have this available on a new Kickstarter that'll be ending September 11th. So if you like the game, check out the page on Kickstarter and you can get your copy. So in the meantime, this is Keith from the Solo Gamers Club signing off. I hope you enjoyed this playthrough, and I look forward to seeing you again in our next video. Don't forget, this was a early bird video for our 2025 October Halloween month. And the reason I propelled this forward is due to the fact that of the Kickstarter, I wanted to make sure that my viewers were aware of that. So until next time, this is Keith signing off and wishing everyone a pleasant evening. Good night.